Welcome to part two of The Dragon Gave Him His Power. And pretty much, in part one, we discussed the beginning, the ending of the beast, certain parts of the beast, um, the major beast that was in power during the time of the Apostle John, which was the Roman Empire. They were still in power, even though Jake was running things at that time. Well, not really, technically not really, because at that time, that's when Domitian was pretty much in power. He was taken down around that time, and that was like the transition of Jake, which is heavy because at that time frame, that's when Domitian was eventually taken out of power. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was 96 AD. Brother can put it up on the comment board if they like. And that would make all the sense in the world, because remember, the prophecy was for them to fall and lose power for 1,000 years, even though that wasn't the date. The date was really like around 325 AD, around that time period when the pagan Roman Empire went from being called the Roman Pagan Empire or the Pagan Roman Empire to being called the Holy Roman Empire, even though it wasn't really holy in the sense of being true to the scriptures, but it took on the title of Christendom, Christian, so on and so forth. So that's very interesting that this was written at this time when Esau's rule was about cut short. Yep, 96 AD, see? And this was written around that time period. So that's kind of heavy that this vision was given to the Apostle John around that time period, because that was the ending of, Esau's rule and going into Jake ruling. And eventually, after a period of 1,000 years, beginning around roughly 325 AD or so, 1,000 years in the future, we'll put it at around 1325 AD, which that's around the time where some accounts give for the Renaissance to start. When you go back in the history and you check it out, the height of it was around the 1600s into the 1700s, but it started around 1325, the mid 1300s going into the 1400s. That's when they were in full bloom as far as pushing that iconoclasm and pretty much pushing the deception of the world. Because remember, after the 1,000-year period, that's when Satan was loosed out of his prison to go around and deceive the world. And this is the point that we're at now, that this beast, this whole beast system of Esau, the 7 heads, 10 horns, they pretty much deceived the whole world. But the Lord, they didn't count on the Lord breaking those lies open and giving the true understanding of what really went down and the revelation of the things that went down. Because Esau is not a spiritual man. Esau is a carnal man, and everything that he does has to be tangible. There has to be empirical proof of it. Nothing can be left to the so-called imagination or to faith, which the scriptures say that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So if that's the case, then there would be certain things that would be left strictly up to faith in these times, because there's not one individual, not one person in the world that can say that the Heavenly Father actually came to them physically and revealed himself to them. There's not one person in the world that can say that in this time that Yahweh Shai came to them and physically revealed himself to them in this time, so that they can believe the things that are written. This thing is either you have the ingredient to believe or you don't have the ingredient to believe. If your belief is small, if you have belief, that belief will increase. If your belief is great, your belief will increase also. But this is something that's given by Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, because at the end of the day, salvation is really coming through faith. That's what the Apostle Paul said, we are saved through hope. You know, we're saved by hope. But hope, what you're seeing, is not hope, because if a man sees something, right, and it's right there before his face, why is he going to hope for it? But we wait for salvation through hope, through the faith that the Lord, whatever he wrote down in these scriptures, he's going to do, and he's going to give to us, you know? And we see the evidence playing out in the earth, you know, with all of the different things that are happening. And this technological boom, so to speak, that's happening out in the world is a clear-cut sign that the Lord is on his way, because that's what's going to usher in the MOTB, you know, and that's when the rubber hits the pavement. Once they do that, it's downhill from there, you know. So let them do what they got to do. So going back to Revelation 13, I said I was going to skip verses 9 and 10, but we'll just read it just for the sake of going through it. It says, if any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. Meaning, if you lead into slavery, you're going to go into slavery. All you got to do is check the history, and you'll know who this fits. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Same thing. Go back in history, see what happened when Esau got to this side of the world, what he did to the Israelites that were here, when he brought the other Israelites from the western coast of Africa to the Americas, what he did to them. That's what they're going to have to pay for. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints, and that's what we're patiently waiting for the vengeance, the avengement, the, be careful, man, the revenge that the Lord said that he would bring upon Esau, you know, for the things that they did to us, right? So it says, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. So this other beast that came out of the earth is the same beast that had the deadly wound healed, but it didn't come back with the same name that it had back then, you know, because the beast that was slain, that was wounded to death, that was the ancient Roman Empire. And when it came back into power, it didn't come back with the same name, but it came back with the same attitude, the same ideas, the same customs, the same philosophy, the same laws, the same military, the same things that paralleled it when it was back then, which in a sense is like is the same as reincarnation, because you'll have a person that lived, let's say 100 years ago, 200 years ago, and they have certain traits and certain ways that their spirit is. Then they come back 100, 200 years later, and although they have a different body, they have a different name, they still have the same characteristics that they did in the other life. So today, America has the same characteristics as her reincarnated partner, the Roman Empire, in the past. So they came back with the same attitude, the same spirit, the same not technology, the same ideas, thoughts, image, so on and so forth, but just under a different name and in a different location, because not every person that's reincarnated is reincarnated in the same country or state or city or whatever the case is, or village or wherever that they were born in 200, 300 years ago. You know, so America is that reincarnation. So it says, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb. And that two horns like a lamb is a representation of the body of legislation that they have here in so-called America. And that body of legislation would be classified as this Senate House, which is the same thing that went down in ancient Rome. And that's why when we read this and you start to get an idea of how, you know, the ancient Roman Empire worked and the legislation that it had, and you parallel it with America and the legislation that America holds, that's why you see so many similarities, you know. But with anything, you know, you're going to have changes here and there, but the body itself is going to still be comprised of the same of the same ideology. All right. So it says, this is our first Maccabees chapter 8, and I'll start at 1. Now Judas had heard of the fame of the Romans, that they were mighty and valiant men. Why? Because they were the iron. That was the iron in Daniel's vision. And such as would lovingly accept all that join themselves unto them, and make a league of amity with all that came unto them. Now we're going to jump down to verse 13. Also that whom they would help to a kingdom, those reign, and whom again they displace. Finally, that they were greatly exalted. And we see that happening even to this very day. Even though this was talking about the ancient Roman Empire, you can apply that today. Because those who America helps, they will become great. But those who don't fall in line with America and her belief system, her democracy, so on and so forth, what do? They make it hard for them, because they're not complying to the order of the beast, of the agenda of the NWO. It says, yet for all this, none of them wore a crown or was clothed in purple to be magnified thereby. Why? Because the prophecy. How do we know how do we know that that is so? Because of the way that they set up their leaders. Now, did you have certain individuals that want to make themselves dictators, want to make themselves kings, and so on and so forth? Of course. Julius Caesar proved that. He was so absorbed with himself that he set himself up to be a dictator, to be pretty much a king. And what happened? They killed him. Why is that? Because the way that the Lord set it up in prophecy was that the way that this particular kingdom, which was the fourth kingdom, was going to be ruled, it was going to be ruled by men that were put in power by the populace, or the people, so to speak. You know, because that's the consensus, even though we know that's not the case. But then they weren't going to rule in a monarch way. And a monarch just simply means king, you know, like a kingly way. You know, they weren't going to be set up in the stead of, or they weren't going to be set up on thrones with crowns on their head. And that's why we read that they didn't wear purple, they didn't put crowns on their heads, because that was the different way in how this fourth beast, which is spoken of in Daniel 7, was going to be set up, and it was going to be diverse or different from all of the other beasts that were ruled through a monarch. Okay? It says, moreover, how they had made for themselves a senate house. And you have a senate house today. There's different numbers of senators in that senate house in comparison to the ancient Roman Empire, but nevertheless, it's still a senate house. And where did they get that idea from? From ancient Rome. That's why even today you still have Latin numerals that they use in school. You have a body of laws that is set up. You have a body of laws. You have a body of laws that's set up in America, and you have the English counterpart, but it all goes back to what? To the Latin. You know, stare decisis, which did stare decisis. You know, you have different pronunciations for it. You know, you have nom de guerre. You have all them different Latinized, all those different Latinized law terminologies. You know, or law maxims. You know, and they're pushing that. Why? Because that is the image of the beast. And this is why you don't see them building, when they build buildings, they don't build it in the Roman type columns and things of that nature, every building. No, they only do that really to their governmental buildings, because that is a way that the Lord is showing us that this particular society is set up just like the ancient Roman Empire, because it said that they would have a deadly wound, and that deadly wound would be healed. So it says, moreover, how they had made for themselves a senate house, wherein 320 men sat in council daily, consulting always for the people, to the end they might be well ordered. Yeah, so that the people would be well ordered. And that's how they order the people. You know, SPQR. You know, the Senate, the populace, and the people, something like that. You know, I can't the Senate, the populace, and something else. I can't remember what the term SPQR is, but that was one of the Rome. If brother, if you can put it up on the comment board, So that's the Senate, the populace, something else, and something else, and that's that's how they did it in the ancient world, and that's how they're doing it now through the revival of the ancient Roman Empire through America. All right. It says, and that they committed their government to one man every year. And that's exactly what they do. Today they do it every 4 years, but it's the same system. They're following the same tenets, the same laws, the same way it was established back then. It's just a different language that's being spoken. All right. So it says, who ruled all their country, and that all were obedient to that one, and that there was neither envy nor emulation among them. Yeah, but we know that that's not the case today, because as Elder Pastor said back then, he believes that the amity, back then with that Judas Maccabees did, Senatus Popules Romanos. Yep. So the Senate, the people, the Romans. I guess that's how it breaks down. That those people were Japhites, the original Japhites, the dark-skinned people, and then eventually these devils came and took it over, as they always do. Like they took over the land of the Macedonians. They set themselves up in power in that way, where they got into Europe through Greece, through Macedonia, so on and so forth. And then they took over the whole world. And people were like, well, that's impossible. How can that be? But wait a minute. Who did this land, America, belong to first? Did it not belong to the so-called North American Indians? And what happened? The so-called white men, the Edomites, took it. And what did they do? They carved their face on the goddamn mountain, Mount Rushmore. So now the average person alive today that doesn't know the history of that God owned this land, what they think? They think that this is the so-called white man's land. So it's a hard thing to believe that they took out dark-skinned people out of Europe and set themselves up in power as if they were the people of those areas? Come on, man. Think. Put on your thinking caps. Put on your thinking caps. Think about it. Inside joke. The think about it part. All right, so pretty much that's that. So now let's go back. Let's go back to Revelation 13 and 11. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb. That's your two opposing parties, because both parties are saying that they're for the benefit of the people. One for the rich, one for the poor. You got the Democrats and the Republicans. Back then it was the plebeians and the something else. I can't remember, it's been a while since I've gone over that history. The plebeians and somebody else, and it's the same thing going on today, but they're acting like a lamb because their whole thing is they're trying to help these particular people that they're supposed to be representing, but they're really not representing and helping them. They're really officiating the business of the bankers, which is to get them in line with the patricians, the water brother, the plebeians and the patricians. The patricians were the rich, because the word Patrick goes back to the word Patrick, or the name Patrick means noble, and then the plebeians were the ones that represented the peasants, so to speak, the lower class. The water for the brothers, for the help on the comment boards, the brothers in the trenches. All right. So that's how they set this society up, right? It says, then he spake as a dragon, and now we're really fully understanding what it means that he spake as a dragon, because although they played the role of being helpful, when you dig deep into what they've done, they pretty much moved this country and its ideologies and all that in the direction of the international banking families, which they have a plan or an agenda of the NWO. The NWO is to have the majority of the planet chipped or all of the planet chip pretty much. The ones that don't comply, move them out the way. The ones that don't comply, let them die. That's their attitude, and reducing the population of the earth to a manageable size so that the earth um, and the resources don't get depleted as fast, because right now they're having a problem with the depletion of the resources of the world. That's why they're making it, they're getting people out of the habit of eating meat and eating plant-based foods, which these plant-based foods, it seems to be a good idea, but a lot of that stuff is nothing but chemicals. Elder Bishop Manatazak sent me a picture of, I don't know what the hell it was, but it said where artificial vanilla, strawberry, and raspberry come from. The artificial flavor vanilla, strawberry, and raspberry come from, and it looked like some bull nuts or some kind of nuts, some kind of gonads of some sort. And that's what they do. They take chemicals and different things and marry them together, to make them taste like these different fruits and vegetables and all that, and say that that's the flavoring for your artificial flavors. So-called natural flavors is the same shit. That's why when it comes to seltzer water, I drink seltzer water, but I drink seltzer water plain, because I those, all of that, cranberry and pomegranate, flavor, that's all chemicals. Sorry to disappoint the brothers out there and maybe sisters out there that drink their flavored stuff, but hey, if you do that, hey, that's on you. There's nothing wrong with that. Just make sure you take something else to get rid of the poisons, because one thing with Jake, they don't like to drink water because it don't taste like nothing, so they like to put stuff in it. So if you're doing the best that you could do, then so be it, because there's other junk that we eat that ain't no good for you either. But that's another subject for another time. So he spake as a dragon. That's through this legislation that they're passing, and eventually, as you see more and more legislation being passed, you're noticing that the clampdown is coming harder and harder, because as the people accept this legislation, what the legislation is doing, it's building a siege around people, and what it's doing is it's closing off and taking their freedoms, because a lot of the so-called freedoms that people have are nothing but liberty. Liberty is not freedom. Liberty is by permission. Freedom is freedom. Liberty is the ability to come and go under somebody's authority. It's a permission. It's not a right that you have to be able to go and come unless it's pleasing to the person that gave you that liberty. Think about it. All right, now the next verse, it says, and he exercises, and this beast, America, he exercises all the power of the first beast before him. And what's that? The Roman Empire. So when you check out the parallels of America, as Luke Vidalski says, I don't know if he still says that. He had a hard time saying the word parallel. Back in the days, he used to say, yeah, I forgot what it was, the capital or DC or something. It's on the 33rd parallel. Just a little joke. So everything in America parallels ancient Rome, from the Senate houses, from the legislation, from the draconian laws and measures, to the Colosseums, which that's all these different arenas are today. Nothing but Roman Colosseums, just modernized. It's the same. It's the same thing. So it says he exercises all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth, meaning the whole entire planet, and them which dwell therein, to worship the first beast. See, so they're worshiping the first beast, which was who? The Roman Empire, whose deadly wound was healed. How was his deadly wound healed? Through the Renaissance period. And if you don't understand that history, you're not gonna understand, the prophecy in Revelation 13 and what it means. Salakia, kind of parched. got more water in the back, but see how much we could get through. All right, so now, all right, so whose deadly wound was healed, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and we seen that happen through Hiroshima, Nagasaki, through them dropping bombs in different areas. You know, people that don't comply, they drop bombs. You know, they drop bombs on what was it? What was that? London during World War II. You know, so they have that power to do this. You know, then you have NATO forces that drop bombs. You know, you had Herzegovina. What was that called? Yugoslavia and all that. The Herzegovina. You know, they dropped bombs on them back then, so they have that power. You know, and that's how they push people to comply, because they're like, look, you either comply through deception or you're going to comply by power. And they're coming to the point where they're using their power to persuade people, because not enough people are complying to their demands. You know, so eventually they're going to get physical. All right? It says, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth. And that's what they do. It says, by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. Yeah. So they're using this power, you know, through America, through this technology that's being pushed around the world, and they're deceiving the people into accepting these things. Because the thing is, okay, well, people are born with flaws, so we can fix those flaws. We can artificially inseminate women with perfect eggs, or perfect embryo, should I say, perfect embryo sperm, where the makeup of it has been changed up so that you won't have any more retarded children, or, you know, or missing limbs, or born blind, or any handicaps. All you have to do is go along with this protocol, you know, take the MOTB, you know, be on board with this, and you too can have the luxury, you know, of not having anyone born to you, you know, with these handicaps. You know, so there's a lot that these devils are doing, you know, that's intriguing the minds of the average person, because the average person is just that, average, and they don't have the mind to discern between bullshit and facts or truth. Right? It says, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. And what is the image of the beast? It's not talking about an actual image, you know, a statue of some sort that they're building to the beast. It's not the picture of Caesar Borgia. What it is the whole system of the Roman Empire being implemented here in America under modern days, and under modern terms and modern things, modern technology, you know? Damn devil. Under modern technology, you know? And that's how they're doing it. And that's how they're pushing it. And the average person is, oh wow, this technology is marvelous, it's wonderful, it's doing so many great things for people, oh God, oh Lord. But really what it is closing you off. Because the more the technology grows, the more the robotics grow, the less people are able to work, because robots are taking over, you know, and there's lower overhead for the people eventually once they pay off those robots after they have made them. You know, the robots don't take breaks, so although they're spending extra money, they could run those robots 24/7 if they want. And those robots won't need a break. Every once in a blue moon, they may need maintenance or whatever the case is, but for the most part, they're flowing through. You know, flawless. As long as the programming is correct. You know? So they're doing a lot of things to close people off. And they don't realize it. And the major thing is, you know, taking that snake serum, you know, that serpent's venom, you know, dinosaur piss, you know, so that they can alter, you know, a person's makeup and make them conformable, so to speak, to the ways of this agenda that they're pushing in the world. It says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. Yeah, and that's how they're giving life to the image of the beast, by pushing the system through and having people uphold the system and do the things that the ancient Roman system did. You know? And everything is leading to what? It's all leading into an economic road. All of this technology, all of this stuff that's going on is all leading down to the economic path. You know? And that's why they're doing so many things to pretty much do what? Make the economies of the world implode on each other so that the world can come to an acceptance of something that's centralized and that works for everybody. And that's why they're making everything digital now. And they've been saying this for years. I've told y'all the story back in the days, you know, when I got home from the military, you know, which I didn't go to war, you know. I was in the military though, and when I got home, I used to hang out, you know, downtown Bridgeport, Connecticut, because this was my home at the time. Matter of fact, I'm not too far from it right now. There used to be this mall down there, which they closed down. They made it into a university. You know, used to hang out there, and then that was back when this was in late 80s, actually, like you could say early 90s. You know, like 80, 89, 90, around there, and that's when the Ansar Allah community Muslims used to hang out there. They were dressed all in white. And I used to hang out with them on the tables, you know, kicking it with them. And one individual, he was always telling me, you know, we would sit down in the van. He said, look, I'm going to sit down. You know, I'm going to break this thing down to you. And I'm going to show you this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And I like knowledge and wisdom, you know, but he never said anything. He just always would be like, yeah, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to talk to you about it. I'm going to break it down for you. I'm going to show you, blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, cool, you know. I would give them, you know, donations. You know, I would come by the table, give them a couple of dollars here and there, kick it with them. And they used to tell me about this cashless society and the reason why credit cards are out and things of that nature. So I knew a little bit about that before the truth, but I really didn't delve too deep into it, you know. So that idea was always out there, but fast forwarding it 30 plus years in the future, we're seeing all this technology out there. Credit card, EBT cards, debit cards, all that. Those things are almost things of the past. Even though they're prevalent now, you know, people are moving into paying with their phones, you know. Because I saw this Jake today, you know, he took his phone and you could see a picture of his credit card on the phone, and he moved it and waved it over. It didn't even take that long. He just waved it over once, and boom, it took the payment and everything. So that's what they're moving everything towards, because the MOTB is the microchip, and they want that in everybody. And it has a special number in it. It has a special signal in it to where it activates things. And that's why they want to move everything into these smart cities. So everything that we see going on in the world, technological wise, or technology wise, is all leading to the MOTB, you know. And that's what the beast did once it came into power. It was moving everything in that direction, you know. All right, so let's go back. This is verse 15. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Yeah, because eventually if you don't comply with the system, they plan on rubbing you out. Why do you think they have the red list and the blue list and the yellow/green list? You know, those are all lists of either you're going to be exterminated, given a chance to rethink it, and the other ones, you know, the yellow and the /green list would be the ones that are ready for re-education. Those are the ones that do not resist. The red lists are the ones that are the problems. The blue list also, but the blue list, I believe they plan on giving, you know, the they might be able to be turned, you know, so to speak, you know. But the red list is total. It's just straight up termination. Blue list also, you know. But the yellow, especially the yellow and the green list, those are, come on, no park here. The yellow and the green list are definitely set for re-education. It says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or on their forehead, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. And we're, you know, we've gone over that many times. So ever since this beast, which was the revival of that other, the first beast, came into power, the whole idea and movement was towards the MOTB. When you really read this chapter with understanding, it's all about a social economic status in this world, to where only the ones that are within the system, plugged into the system, will be able to operate. And this is where Jacob's trouble is going to come into play. And this is where the men of the Lord, the elect, are going to be protected from all of this, somehow, some way, you know, because that's what the Lord said. That's going to be a beautiful thing, man. So we don't know exactly how it's going to play out. We have ideas based off of the scriptures, you know, based off of the things that we've read, certain movies that were put out, you know, just to give like the mind pictures to think upon of these things that would happen. I just recently saw the movie Cell with Samuel Jackson and John Cusack, you know, and pretty much all of these different movies dealing with the technology, dealing with, you know, the Crown Vicky juice, they're all leading towards people being turned into zombies in whatever form that may be, you know, whether it be they just, you know, be infected or whatever the case is, you know, it's all leading towards that, you know, and everything is leading to a cashless society, a cashless society, a cashless society. The reason why they didn't lock down Sweden, you know, it's not because of anything else but that they are cashless, and they have a lot of people that have the chip, and we don't know how many people are chipped already, you know, but that is the reason for that. Now Elder Apostle Tahar just put up a video where this one individual spoke to Mike from Rethink the Dollar, and he told him about the reason why it's because of the microchip, you know, but he kind of like was reluctant, like kind of hesitant, like, well, you know, they're cashless. So it's like you could tell that he had like a little rebuttal for that, you know, because I don't think he really fully understands that the MOTB is the microchip, you know. So it remains to be seen. So, you know, I'll read the last verse and then we'll close it out. This is verse 18. Here is wisdom, let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 603 and when you go into that 666, the last 6 is stigma, which is something that's inserted or cut into you. You know, there's the individual that created the RFID chip, Carl Sanders, stated that there is a 18-bit thing with inside of the chip, and what it's broken down into is broken down into it's broken down to three separate components, so to speak, for lack of better, or three separate components, so to speak, for lack of better words, that each of them has 6 bits. So there's 3 components, so to speak, or 3 compartments, so to speak, that each have 6 bits. So that's what, 666. You know, 18 3 divided into 18 is 666. You know, it's 6. So pretty much there's everything surrounding this MOTB and that technology leads back to 666, whether it be the patent for, you know, the thing, which is 060606, or whether it be the UPC code broken down to 666, or whether it be the 18 bits that are in the RFID microchip, which is broken down into 3 sections of 6 bits. You know, everything leads back to 666, which is a number of the beast, which is a number of a man. So with that, you know, I pray that your brothers have been edified. This has been the Dragon gave him his power and great authority, which is the Roman Empire, where America got their teeth, so to speak, from. So with that, I pray that your brothers have been edified, you few sisters. Till next time, I say shalom.